Hey guys, welcome back to Environment Sketching. Instructor Phil here. Okay, so let's start off here. I have Anthony's piece here. I'm going to go into this and start working a little bit. One of the first things I just want to talk about, I just pulled these samples up offline really fast, and let me drop them into Photoshop here. One thing that we always have to remember, one of those didn't open, atmospheric perspective, right? This is just somebody's photo grab, but what's cool is that look at when items are closer to you, they're going to be richer, and as those items recede, light is getting in there and it's basically lightening up the values. Even though this value, this shadow right here of this hillside, of this building side next to this hillside is a lot lighter, it's still here, it's going to be darker, it'll progressively get lighter, and then as things recede back, it gets even more lighter. You have to remember that, and here's just sort of the basics about that. Saturation always decreases with distance, okay? It always happens. Just remember that. You got to keep that in mind, okay? So the reason why that's important is when we look at a tonal study, we're establishing light. If we come into here, and we look at that value, and that's clicking up here at about a 50% grade, and then I look way back here, that's at a 50% grade. There's a little bit of a problem because the distance from here to here is so great, the value should be diminishing as it recedes back there. Okay? All right, so first thing I did, and this is just something that I like to do when I work, is I came in here, and unfortunately, I'm having to put the drawing on multiply, but I put basically a 20% grade underneath there. Okay? I can't paint on the drawing because I lose part of the line, but anyway, we'll deal with that as I'm working on this little demo here. Okay, so one of the things I like to do sometimes is I come over, give me a second here, I can't hit my layer option. Sorry guys, I can't move the recording screen and I need to resize so I can get to layers. There we go. All right, so one of the things that I like to do when I start is I like to think about what is happening inside my environment in terms of shadows and where I can cast them. And I think what's easy to do is just to come in with a red line. Now, Anthony's already done this on this piece. He's been very considerate of these shadows in here. But sometimes I just, I look at my composition and just ask myself, hey, what would happen if that building was casting out like this way? And then maybe this building might come in here and cast. And then just throw a couple parallel lines. Could that be another alternative for me to have? Okay. However, though, even though I like to do that, in this case, I already have the sun identified right here, up where that red circle is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work off of this particular tonal study. However, though, at the end of this study, I hope you guys would take into mind that important factor of, hey, where do I want to put these elements and how are they going to work? Okay. All right. So first thing I'm going to do, and again, I'm drawing on top of this guy. What is going on? I've lost all my brush options. Something weird here. Let's see. I have this sort of block-in brush that everyone in the world uses. It's a fantastic brush. So what I'm going to do is just start laying in some values here and thinking about dark to light. Okay, so first thing, dark to light with the position of my light source. Okay, so now I can take advantage of some things. For example, that if the shadows are casting here and this is right here, light's coming this way, all this area into here might be pretty dark, so I can really get a chance to come in here and knock some of this back a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to try to do that. Here's the hard part is I have not your fault, Anthony. I have the line drawing and it already has tone in it. It's much easier if I have just the line drawing, so I have to try to paint on top of this at the same time without killing all the line, but we'll see what we come up with here. Okay, so I'm going to drop down to a little bit darker value here, put my brush on like 30%, and let me see if I can't, let me get my keyboard back up here, see if I can just sort of jump in here and adjust some presets. Sorry guys, I'm on my other Cintiq at home and I'm not used to working like this. Okay, so here, I'm just going to come back in here real quick, so I'm just going along parts of this. Okay, I'm going to just punch up the values. Okay, especially like right in there. Look at that light. That light might hit the edges, but no way it's going to get in there. That's going to be nice and dark in there, right? Okay. Even if we see through there, I can adjust that a little bit later. I just like to come in, I just block stuff in. Now that shadow right there, it's going to be darker. Why? It's immediately closer to me, okay? And the fact that it is so much closer, okay, it's going to be a lot richer. So that light source, this shadow, even if that was the same shadow as that one, this is closer, it's going to be darker. It has to be darker. All right, there we go. All right, now just darken it. Even just doing that, you can already see what happens in the distance here, how we start to really push some of our values up, okay? So now I'm going to come back in here. Back here might be a little bit darker. Just sort of hit some of these. I'm trying to get these to lighten up a little bit back there. So especially right here now I have this sort of side view here. What I'm going to do is I like to pop the foreground a little bit. So sometimes it's, you know, it's like a little bit of cheating. If I just come in here, I'm just going to darken this, really get this foreground element to pop, okay? So by darkening it up, and remember, the local value of an item, this could be like a dark blue overhang. If that's a dark blue overhang, it's going to be much darker in terms of its value sets than if it was if it was like a light brown canvas, let's say. Okay, so we don't know that. So that allows me to get in here and have some freedom with darkening and lightening objects, okay? We did talk about, I did have a concern about those barrels, the size of those barrels in terms of perspective and scale. They felt a little bit large compared to people standing there. Okay, so I would adjust those. I'm just going to pin over them right now. I don't want to get into that, too much of that information. Okay. One thing I like to do, I usually wait a little bit. I like to come in and address these little areas that I call like dark and light pits. What I mean by that is little gradients, right? We've talked before about little gradations that happen. Like, for example, in this corner here, I could come back and sort of punch up little darks right in there. It might be darker here and then sort of fades its way back over, gets a little bit lighter. Right in here, I have this little groove in there, right? That's going to have a little chunk of dark to light in it. It's going to might start a little dark back here and then fade itself back this way, a little light. So these little gradients, once I get in here, you know, really can add a lot to my piece here because they're little subtleties that the eye pick up and they really work pretty nice, okay? Okay, so let me develop that. Let's get that going, punching this up, okay? A little bit here. And now again, so if the sun's here, white side, that's going to be a lighter side there. So what I'm doing is just going to still that value that Anthony already had in there, okay? Actually, it's easier. I'm working at like a 50% grade. Let me just go in here. Going to be a little bit darker under there, okay? Darken this up a little bit. Now, an alleyway, right? Alley that curves. So therefore, back here, as it gets, you know, between this object and that object, light is going to be limited towards getting in. So if you take both your hands and put them together, you'll see how much darker it gets, right? So what I can do, one second. Hopefully I can back up there. Sometimes the recorder, I'm using a different system to record right now. That's pretty cool. There we go. So it's going to be a little bit darker back in here, and then that's going to fade back in there, right? All right. Go. All right, now even if I get in here, oops, I'm going to drop down to like 20 and just put a light overhang shadow in there, or cast that guy down there, okay? There we go. And then I have all this pocket right here. I'm just going to cast a little bit on there just to knock it back a little bit, you know? Anthony, I would come back in here a little bit later and define some of this in here. I know it's further in the back here and it might be a little bit lighter, but you could still define that up a teeny bit in terms of detail, overhang, whatever. You can actually copy and paste elements from here and put it in there as little details. Now there's a lot of contrast in there, so I'm going to push that down a little bit. So what are we talking about here, folks? The pushing and pulling of values, okay? Then even as that recedes, I still think it's just getting a little it's still a little dark and there's not much of a gradient happening. So with that in mind, let me take this darker value. Maybe part of this area here and from here is a little bit darker, and then we have a little gradient that starts to happen here. Knock my brush down to about 10%. Just lightly come in and try to get that gradient to flow through. Okay, to come back down in there. Then as it goes back there, I think I need to come in here and see if I could just whiten this up a little bit. So I'm just using a little bit of white, especially where that shadow is going to deteriorate. You know, it could be a hard shadow, but, you know, light's going to bounce in here, bounce off these buildings, come back and hit this. So I'm just going to knock it back. I want that shadow to feel a lot lighter than what this shadow is right in here. Okay. All right. Give me a second here. Go. Knock that back a little bit. Okay. It's pretty cool. All right. Let's see next here. Sun's up here, right? Super bright. So first of all, I hate that little red thing. Sorry, Tony. Let me erase that and let's put a real sun in there. Okay? That's our sun. Let me go back to brush. And what I'm going to do is I just going to imagine my sun like this, and I'm just going to come over here and just sort of spot it in there. Okay, that's not working. Let's try that again. That's not, oh, that's why, because I need to be on the, what's it doing? Why is my machine not working? There, that worked. Let's try that. You know what? Might be because I'm on the, there we go. So I'm going to get that sun in there. What I like about that brush is then I could come here and get a little bit of haze off of it like that. Now, it's, Tony had it as red, right? Now you can see what happens when it's red is, you know, it just basically doesn't work. And it's white, I need a little bit more contrast to see what's happening in there. So we talked about how the sky is a blue. And when we look at the value of a blue, so if we come back here, and if we just look here and say, hey, the sky color is going to be somewhere about like right here, you know, like a blue like that. And that looks like sky, you come over, see, that's what the value is. That's like a 10, 20% grade, even down a little bit more. So that's a benefit for me to use that color picker to find out value sets, okay? I'm going to go a little bit darker because I want to put a little bit of haze. Remember, skies, we have a spherical sky because we live on a round planet, right? So because of that, let me come back in here. Which layer am I on? I'm going to come in here and, oops, too bright, too dark. I'm going to just lightly go back in here and see I'm just going to darken. I'm going to punch up that sky just a little bit. Then I'm going to try to get it to fade a little bit without getting too dark. And then as it gets back here, it should get a little bit lighter. That's also a great way for painting because you really start to see elements. If you do that across the sky, you really start to see sky elements sort of pop out. Okay. Anyway, so I just put a little bit of dark there on the top. Okay. And give me a second here. And then one of the problems is I have the line that's sort of dominating in these, but let's pretend, you know, if the sun's right there and I have clouds right here and I can see under that cloud, right, there's going to be some value changes, okay? So now what I can do is let's come over here. Let's go back to one of my brushes and where is it? Right here. Okay, I have some other cool brushes here. Silhouette sketch brush is pretty fun too. And I forget, I updated my brushes and then I went to another machine. I didn't save. Not a good idea, Phil. Okay, there it is. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is come in here. Now the line can kill this for me because the line can sort of dominate a little bit, right? But I'm going to just try to put a little bit of a base underline under that underneath there, like this. Okay? So light value like that, right? And then even back here, now this could be a little bit lighter. Remember, as it recedes back, it's going to get lighter, right? And that's one of the problems with your line sometimes, is we need to get in there and basically eliminate part of that line and then get the white to read. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. Hold on, those are the values. Let me label my layers real quick. I'm getting a couple extra layers here, and I want to put, this is my high layer. So what I'm doing, just to show you, because I'm working off of Tony's, I got values. I'm putting highs right in here. And then right down here under the base, that's his line drawing. So I'm having to work on top of that line drawing. That way I know, you know, those are the adjustments I've made so far. Okay. All right. So now if I come in here, remember I can't have pure white, right? So there's some other things I still need to address in here. Even with the sun coming in here, I need to get white highlights on my clouds. And watch your clouds. Cumulonimbus clouds that are puffy don't tend to do this thing like they've been under a yogurt machine and they're like, you know, something's dripping down. Almost looks like a Slurpee cloud or something, okay? So here, I'm going to come over here. Let's take some white, and I'm going to see if I can't just come over here and imagine. Let me raise the value of that. There we go. If I have a little bit of white coming across here, I'm part of my clouds, okay? And what I can try to do here, let's go to the line. I want to see if I can go in with about a 20% and just erase some of that line in there. It's just too strong. Go away, line. There we go. Especially back there. Way too strong. It's much better. Okay. All right, let's go back to highs here. Let's go back to our brush now. And I'm just going to try to I'm trying to do this really fast. You know, I got a couple more of these to do. Just want to get some tops. You know, sun's up there. There's going to be little highlights coming on top of these clouds, right? All right. Now I have what feels much more like a sky, right? Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Now, a couple other things I should address too is, and look, I mean, look at my ground plane, same value going all the way back. It's not going to be like that, right? So even here, I'm going to come in. Let's just grab a light value. My brush is like 20%. I'm just going to come in here. Actually, I dropped it down to 10%. And I'm just going to try to get a little bit of a gradient. It's going back here, like so. Okay, just on the ground a little bit. Even here, it's still so bright. Just need to knock some of this back, get it to fade in some areas here. Little shadows are going to be under there, right? See that? That might be pretty crisp, but then here it might be a little bit darker. Got this little side back here. Okay. What I do like, I'd have to change the line drawing, but there's some really cool brushes. Oh, these are my old brushes. Here's like ground dirt, right? I love this brush right here. I can give you guys this whenever you want, but this is what's so cool about this. See how white that ground is? It makes it feel sort of empty, right? And it's not going to really be that white, but see what I can do is just come in here and I just stamp this a couple times and it just starts to fill up. And as I get back, I get a little smaller. It just makes it look more like a dirt or some type of ground, you know, right? And stamp it like it there. See that? It feels more like dirt. And look, I already have a little bit more of a gradient taking place in there. A lot better. Okay. All right, let's go back up here. Sorry. I'm hitting the recorder button there. You can't see it, but right under my little brush here, I have a little recorder button there. Records everything, and it's telling me what time we're at. 16 minutes right now. Okay, so let's get back in here. Let me see here. What else do I want to do? Still don't like some of that. I want to put a little bit more values back in here, but just right now I have I like the direction that I'm going in. I feel like I have more of a gradient taking place. And here's the cool thing about doing all this is if I come in here and take that off, you can see how white it is. I accidentally painted on the line drawing, but see how white it is? It's like starch and just so bright. And then just putting a little bit more values on top of it right now, it really starts to bring it back a little bit more and help it, okay? And then again, what I could do is I can, you know, keep knocking down the line drawing right there and get that to work a little bit. Still, that value is as dark as that value. So let me see if I can't go in there still and try to knock some of these values back a little bit. And here's one thing. I had a student already ask me about this and said, hey, Phil, my line drawing is still popping out. What do I want to do? Well, that's a really good point. Once you start getting into values, you know, technically with digital painting, your line drawing, you want to start to diminish it. So basically the values hold the structure of what's underneath. And that's what, when you get to a point where you're really doing a lot of digital painting, especially of environments, you lose your line and the values are holding the structure underneath. They're holding the cube shapes that are taking place in there. Okay? All right. So let me just come over here. I might throw a couple more. Might put a little bit of something on the ground there because it's not perfect. Might darken that up just a teeny bit in here. And I'm still not even at a, look, I know it says pure black, but look right there, if I click that, I'm getting close to it. But remember, I'm at like a 20% grade. So that still allows me to get in there and really push up a couple other values if I like. Okay. Remember what I was telling you guys in class too is that, you know, even if light's coming from there, there could be another building or something else that's creating other values or shadows that's preventing things from being lit up too, right? That's absolutely a possibility. I know in this case it might be a little bit harder because light is right there coming this way, but that's okay. So I want to get in here, I want to define every other one of these being a little bit darker. Trying to push them up a little bit. Okay. Anyway, I like this a lot better now. I just have a better direction. Let's try to fill up some variances here. Okay. That's wood. That might, one side might be lighter, one side might be darker, right? Those little details. That's why a little like framing on the edges, giving the roof a little bit more thickness. maybe that's going to be in shadow to where that light is, right? And then maybe there's even, because of that light being there, it's not quite hitting that facade. So I got to think, now that light could hit that facade, but this, if that light's there, this facade, it's not going to hit. So even technically this area here is going to still be in value. And I can come back and then put a shadow now over this. That's what I mean. It's just finessing, talking to yourself a little bit, figuring out what's happening value-wise, what's taking place. You know, not talking to yourself like a crazy person, but just asking little questions, you know. This is further in the back, right? Light's over there. If light comes here, bounces, it'll hit over here on the edges. So I can maybe darken little gradients on these sides here, like so. Okay, that might be, but if light's coming this way, there's a building here, it might be creating a little bit of a shadow going across part of that building. So I could put like a little shadow in there. It's just about, you keep pushing and trying to figure out how some of this is working in here, right? Okay, that's it. So that's good. I would just leave that alone, and now I could go over that with color. The only thing I'd probably work on a little bit more is, you know, part of me wants to just develop a little bit more of the clouds in here. Get some of those highlights in there, get some darker shadows, you know, on how clouds work. Clouds have, you know, they're moisture, right? So because they're moisture, light is hitting the top of the vapor, and it's catching those white highlights. So you got to think of that you always have a dark surface underneath part of your clouds, and then you just get these little white sort of sprinkled highlights on the top, but they're still dark. So a great secret to working on clouds is working from dark underneath and then building up with light highlights on the top. Okay, all right, so that right there, you know, I like that. I'm at 20 minutes right now. I'm going to stop, go to the next one. I have just a lot more right there. I mean, look at the difference here, guys. I mean, let's just go back and take a look at where we were. See that? It's just so bright and just, the sun is melting the earth, right? It's just super bright. Now here, I mean, look at that. And even if I want to, on these values, you know, I can still come in here and, you know, sometimes I paint my values in a little bit dark, and then you can just adjust the opacity. I could still knock it down a little bit, and see, even that, I have much more of a visual read happening in there than I do just that super bright, starchy white, you know. So, you know, even if you punch it up a little bit, I mean, I'm looking at it now and I'm like, okay, I'm busy talking and painting at the same time, which always doesn't work out the best. But even if I drop that down about 10% there, I feel like that's more indicative of that particular day, time period. And what's really cool, you know, this is where you guys got to check with your color picker here. So if I look here, darker value, right? Look, getting lighter, and I might have hit the black line there. That should be lighter. So I could still go in and lighten that down a little bit more up there. So again, darker, and I could still put a couple more darks up in here. Actually, here, let's do that real quick and see what happens just in a couple little spots here to get it really to drop back. So back here, I could knock that down just a little bit more. Okay, fade this back in a little bit in here, right? Like so. So I can knock that back down a little bit, which means here, if I come back to my line, okay, I can even drop my line. I'm just lightly erasing this right now. Take some of this line off so it's not so powerful. So some of the values underneath pop out a little bit more. Okay, here we go. Voila. Okay, there. So now you can see there's a little bit more haze back there. And sometimes, you know, artists, what you can do too is you can just come in with like a soft brush like this, and then you can just grab a white, and then, what did I just do? Hold on a minute. Changed my eraser, and I didn't mean to do that. I have one eraser that I really like to use. There we go. So, and then look, if I just grab a white like that sun, and then just hit this, I'm just going to paint on top of it a little bit. What it's going to do is just haze the line back itself. So I can either erase it or just even paint on top of it, and see it sort of diffuses it. Gets it to really sort of drop back there a little bit. Okay? And so would be, by the way, you know, of the sky, dark to light, when we get back here, it tends to, the base of the sky where it meets the horizon line tends to drop into like a turquoise, right? And if you look at a color picker and you come over here, and if you look at blue, and then you get down into this turquoise right here, boy, does that get a lot lighter, right? So having that sort of white blended in highlight back here that sort of goes into this environment going upward really does help the piece a little bit more. And then if you get a little area, like you're like, oh, I accidentally painted over some of that, you know, that's no worries. I can just come in here with my lasso, and I can reestablish part of that shadow. Okay, hide that, take my brush, and then I can just lightly hit that and just try to get that in there a little bit more. Okay, there. So now if I come back, oh yeah, let me just grab a brush real quick here. Let's just grab a texture brush that I have. Some of these I got from just other people. Tree canopy, where's light? I don't know. I labeled all my brushes now. Let me go back and just see what, here, let's just use this guy here. Thicker texture, right? So I'm going to jump up. Let's go to a much darker value here. And if I come in here and just sort of try to hit, let me go up here. I got to go my value layer. Okay, so let's see what happens at 80 here. Go a little bit darker. And let's see. Oops, I forgot I had that little selection on. My bad. Oh, that's way dark. Okay, let me drop down to about 40%. And see, it's just going to put these little, you know, some little variants in here. Texture variants, right? Nothing's perfect. Wood has texture to it, has different feels, you know. It's actually doing it really large, but that's okay. A couple little texture feels in there. Okay, that's cool. I like that, you know. So now I stop back and I look, and now let's go check the value sets, right? Look, I come here, so much darker right in there, especially right up in here, darker, okay? And then right here, get a little bit lighter. And that's a pretty good jump, so I can even darken that a little bit. And then as we go to here, we get lighter. As we go here, we're getting lighter, lighter. We start to go back into here, lighter, right? And go back there, and we're really jumping down in the values right there. See that? Even here, look at the sky. So the sky's light anyways, but that's okay. But then I start to get a little bit lighter, and as I go back here, it gets lighter, gets in a little bit lighter, and then here it gets a lot lighter. So just those little jumps from here to here, for that local value of a blue, it works. Okay. All right, let me stop this recorder so my machine doesn't crash. Let me go over, do another one. That'd be a nice comp for me right there. You know, that's a good comp to go with. I have that. I could put that in my lighting studies. And again, real quick, I always like to look at the difference. That's where we started. Okay. So all those little elements add a lot. Okay, we'll be right back, guys. Hi, guys. All right, here we're back again. Now we're on Alexander's piece here, and Alexander had two. Now this one has light coming down, and the light's coming forward from this direction. So this one's okay. I don't like this one as much. I think I'm going to do the other one just for a basic reason that whenever light is coming down in a particular direction that is offset, coming down, so it's basically the light is doing this. The light is, oops, sorry, let me hit my keyboard. There we go. Light is coming at us in this direction, basically like this. Okay, and in this composition, the fact that it has like a tunnel, a line here, this type of composition would sort of be better if the light was coming this way and casting shadows out this way, or if the light was coming like this from back here. That way we can establish a lot more darks and lights. The problem with this is that it works good in photography, but now doing this as an illustration, it would work better with color than tone. Being that the lights can hit here, that'll be brightest, this will be brightest, and then here it just gets a little hard to tell, and what happens, it'll technically be a little darker because it'll be cast in shadow, and it sort of goes against atmospheric perspective. I wouldn't choose this particular light direction. I've had students before pick a light direction that doesn't work as well, and I think this would be sort of a good example of one of them. It's okay to do a quick demo on it, but this one you're going to have a lot more results in a lot more different directions, especially with light. And this one looks like it could be not only coming down sort of in this direction, but also at a possible tilt, something like this. So the light's coming in here, hitting highs and casting shadows. Okay, all right, with that said and done, let's go ahead, let's dive into this one. Oops. That's weird. Why did it delete when I'm on a layer above it? Let's try that again. There it goes. Okay, that's Photoshop acting up. All right, so one of the things I noticed, just to go over this real quick, right? One of the problems is look at the value. Here's our little meter. Okay, so if I click over here, look at that value right there, and then look at that value, let's say back here, it's just pure white. See, look at that, and oh, getting close to pure white. Okay, and it's still just, that might be a little bit of tone value from the light source, but it looks like it's pure white here. Problem is it here, and then to here, and then to here, it's not really changing. There's no real value gradation here that's happening. And then you come over here, so this right here, if you look at that, is actually darker than, or close to the same value. This is way in the midground though. See that? That's a little bit darker right there than is this value right here. Okay, so this should not be lighter than this. Okay, it's receding back, and those are some of the key changes that have to be made here. And once again, like we said, you know, you got to look at, remember just some of the basic rules we talked about. Pull up that chart again, an atmospheric perspective, you know. Now this is a pure extreme, I meant to say, an example, but look at the dark, and then it gets a little bit lighter, lighter to lighter. You need to have some type of saturation that's indicating that distance change, and right now we are not getting that type of distance change that's happening, okay? Absolutely not. Okay, so let's go in here and see if I can go over this very quickly with another layer. Let me see what happens if I put this on multiply, if that works a little bit easier. Okay, that might work a little bit easier. The other thing too, Alexander, to think about is, look, you have a light right here. To me, this would be your biggest area of light right in here. And then this would just, I just sort of leave this alone. You don't want this to be too dominant and pull you away from what's happening here with the light. So I understand that you put the light on, but you know, I might just leave that for right now. So first thing I'm going to do is just come over here. I'm going to take my brush here, drop down to about a 40% grade, and I'm just going to start to darken some of this. Look at this. This is going to be much darker back in here, okay, because this is all behind. This is in shadow. And even if I start coming along part of this and just sort of blocking this in right now, so my goal is to get that dark to light feel. Dark, especially in here, dark inside that tunnel. Start to move it across. Okay, give me a second here. I put this layer on top. I'm wondering if it's, nah, I gotta leave it on top. Sort of get it to blend in. I put it on multiply, and all that did was made things even darker. Okay, let's say light's coming down. Let's say that there was a shadow right there. We'll come back to that in a minute. Part of this might cast out. There might be a little bit of shadow indication there. I need to dull this down. Okay. Looks like if light's coming this way and the shadow's that's going to cast over this. So this is going to be in shadow here. So first thing I do in any tonal studies, I just do the block in. This is part of my block in. Really getting a good feel. Then I come back and I start to push those little milk and cranny areas, the little gradient. So that's closer to this structure. It'd be a little bit darker, and then light would sort of radiate up, and then it would break out. This is an overhang right here. That might be a little bit darker, and so on. I just keep sort of messing with these value sets here. Excuse me. A little bit of cough still. Now, even if light's coming there is the possibility. I'm going to pretend that there might be shadow coming over some of this. Maybe this is just all in value right here. Okay. All right. I'm going to just keep working for a couple minutes on this guy. I tend to want to talk too much and just forget what I'm getting into. Okay. I would separate that. Well, if it's part of the same building, I guess that's okay, but this doesn't look like, this structure goes like this and curves, so therefore we would see a wall here. All right, because that's not on the same plane as this. That should pop out a little bit more like so. Excuse me. And one of the things we need to do, I wish I had a separate line drawing for this because the line is, you know, overwhelming a little bit. Just keep working on this for a minute. Another thing, Alexander, to think about is if this is water in here, which it looks like it is, water that's flowing here, water in these type of conditions are going to tend to be more glossy with darker with highlights on it. So you can't have it too light. This is actually going to be pretty dark going through part of this, and then it'll have lots of highlights and like reflections and stuff in it. All right, let me pause the recorder for just a minute and keep going. All right, guys, I just paused for a minute so I don't kill the recorder here. What I did is I just came in here. This is where I left it, right? I just was punching up the darks a little bit more. I came back on top of that and then just started getting some of these to blend together a little bit. And then I came in and started painting some better highlights in here with a little bit more white. Now, one of the areas that's going to be hit here with light coming through, we're going to definitely have some highlights on here. And Alexander, you need to really take a look at rock structures to get this to work up here. Rock structures don't have equal segments like this in between. Look at that. Same thickness, same, almost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're going to have lots of variations in there and stuff. So, and then you can have a shadow with highlights on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to your line drawing right now. And I want to see if I could just come in here. I just want to get rid of some of this really fast. Get rid of that line that you have. I'm just going to sort of paint over it. The value you have right there, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to really make this look like rock structure, and it can be a huge benefit to you. I mean, I used to have a friend, instructor, used to say, if you're going to put something inside a piece and you're going to make it look realistic, then it has to match. It has to be correct, right? So let's get rid of that line. Let me come back over here to the dark. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do this really fast with like the lasso tool. And there it is. Uh-oh. Deselect. So I'm going to get the lasso tool here. So I'm imagining rock structure. So I'm thinking of the darks right now. So watch as I do this. I'm just going to come up here. I'm imagining this might be darks. This is like shadow area. Okay, so I'm imagining a highlight. It's always going to be sort of on the other side. I'm also trying to get some of these darks to be in relationship to contrast of your buildings and stuff here. So let's say right there is going to be my first sort of pass. So imagine lights coming down this way. Okay, these are going to be dark shadows, and then the top parts will be highlights. So with that in mind, I'm going to come back over here, and I can still subtract and add. So I'm imagining, look, that wouldn't be dark right there. That should be more of a highlight. So I'm going to come in here, imagine that's a little bit darker in here, then highlight, then just sort of get this, you know, another dark there. Same thing in here. It might be a little bit of a highlight here. So this might be a little bit more of a darker little area there. There's always these little pit changes, and that actually only comes from looking and practicing at different variations of rock and stuff. Okay, now I can come in here and I can subtract that. If this is dark, there might be a little bit of a light rock structure right here that's getting hit, let's say. Actually, I want to raise that a little bit above the house there so it's not so, oops. Okay, and let me come back in here. Maybe there's just a little bit highlights. Maybe that crunch over a little bit more like this. There's always going to be highlights, different facades, different light starts, right? Now I'm going to hide that. I hit it, and I'm going to come in here with another layer, and now that I have that hit, I'm just going to grab that value that, oops, that's right here, and watch what happens. I'm just going to come in here and sort of lightly see what happens. If I go in there, it starts to give that sort of rock formation, right? However, though, that value is way too dark, so I'm going to drop down to like a 10% here right now, and just sort of lightly come in here and sort of brush that in so it starts to feel like it's little bits of dark and light in there. This is a great thing about Photoshop. Easy techniques to really create some of those feels of mountains in there. Okay. Here we go. Excuse me. got this, and after I was sick last week, I got this cough that just lingers around, and I can't quite get rid of it yet. Okay, so you see how I have that in there? It's like little darks and mountain cracks and all that stuff, right? What's cool is if you look at what you have, okay, you can still come in and adjust it a little bit more. Now remember, if I hit 50, look at how dark that can get, right? Just punch up a couple of areas. You can hit deselect, and then I'm just going to come in here. Now I'm going to imagine light hitting that. So those are the shadow sides, right? So now let's go back. I have a layer here that's called my highlight layer. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select some of these little spots I was imagining would be highlights. Right in there. Okay, shift. Come on. Why is it not? There it goes. Just trying to add more. Come in here, let's say, a little bit in there. Some in here. A little bit of cracks, especially on edges. Edges are where water run off, and so on. And so you're going to have these little bits, highlights, little cracks, and angles, and all that type of good stuff. Let's come back in here a little. Definitely right here on part of that shadow. And that technique I showed you guys with tracing paper, it's really easy to do this because then you just go in and you can erase on top of it if you don't want to work digitally. It's up to you. Okay. Go against that edge, maybe put a bigger highlight sort of here. All right. Highlight right here, right in here. Let's see where else we had. I hate it when only on PC does it put that little stupid shift thing there. It's annoying because I can't see if I'm, like right now I'm trying to select under it and I can't see it. Okay. Now your highlights not all going to be the same consistency, are they? Nope, they're not. They're going to have gradients in them. Ends are going to, corners and facades are going to tuck and roll and go around opposite sides and so on. So you have to try to incorporate some of that into your piece here. Okay, give me a second there. So that's looking pretty cool right now. It's on my highlight layer. I'm going to hit hide. Okay, let's go in here. Let's go to like close to a pure white there. And I'm going to go to my brush. What I can do is if light's coming down this way, I'm imagining that light hitting some of these little edges, right? Okay. And I'm just going to sort of lightly come in here. I'm a little too strong on the opacity. I'm going to drop down to about 20%. I'm just going to get some of these highlights in here. Actually, let's go down to about 10. So I'm going to try to get highlights on that rock side. Coming down. There we go. So I'm coming up over here. And that's a little too bright there. So I need to knock that down a little bit. Just lightly build up on these. Lightly build up. Okay. See, that feels much more like rock. I can still go in. Because look, I have my selection there, right, in Photoshop. So I just took my eraser. Now I can come down to 10%. And if I put a little too much, I can just erase some of these to get them to work. Okay, these are little highlight corners. So I don't want to get them to be too strong, especially if they're sort of way in the back there. Okay. All right. That's looking pretty cool. And here, let me come back with my brush then. Take the eraser. Now I just want to get a couple little, like on the little edges here. Just a couple, just very lightly. A couple little edges that might get hit. Be a little bit brighter. Because that light's going to come in there pretty strong. And that gives me that, remember we talked about having little pits of gradients. So now I'm even having a little bit of a gradient of a highlight in there. Okay. And then I can hit sort of deselect. And also going over this now, I can sort of blend in some of the edges so it's not so crisp. You can also do that too if you have, let me see if I have it on this. I'm on a different machine for recording than my usual machine. But if you come over into your Smudge Presets, I don't have any presets on this machine, but I need to get a couple. Okay. This little mountain there, I'm just wondering if you even need that or not. Part of me is thinking that you don't even really need this structure right in here. Part of me wants to just take it out right now. So let me, I think I might do that. It's just such a small line. It doesn't really convey any, it's not that important in terms of information. Okay, let me just come back here. Let me do it here. I'm just going to paint this out right now. Okay. And hopefully I can get in there, maybe get a little bit of cloud or something else happening in there. Just a little bit of the sky, let's say. All right, now I need to adjust this a little bit, and I need to punch up a little bit more light. Something I could do pretty quickly. Watch, I'm going to just do this on another layer. Light's coming in this way. I'm going to, and you have this hard line in there. So I'm not necessarily going to have that hard line. I'm going to come back in here with my erase. And actually, it's just brush. See if we can just paint over this line a little bit. Just to knock it down. Okay, get that to knock down just a teeny bit right in there. And then, yeah, so it's not so, we want to keep our eye focused in here, right? That's a good focal point to have right now. Shh. Sorry, my dogs are barking. All right, let me get that in. Come back here, see if I can push up just a little bit more value back here on a couple of these. Give me a second, I need to check my layer. I was putting a bunch of these. See, that's, sometimes I like keeping them on separate layers like that, because then I could select it real quick, and then if I want to, all I have to do to select it, right, is just come over here, draw a circle around it, hit the move tool, hit the arrows, and oops, I have the wrong layer selected there. There we go. Let's try that again. So just take your lasso, select over the area, hit V, hit the move tool, and it selects most of that area for me. Hit H. Now I can get in here and still paint. It's going to have a lot of that selected. But sometimes I don't do that anymore. I just get in there and start to nudge. I want to get some little light shadows back in here coming up. There's going to be little pits of dark and light. And I'm not even zooming into this, you know. Just make it feel more like a hillside. Then let's come over here and I'm going to go to my highs. And I'm imagining like this fuzzy feel of light is sort of coming through here. So I want to see if I can't just, you know, see what this looks like. If I just sort of come over here and just sort of brighten this up a little bit. Light's coming through. So all that's doing when I'm hitting it with white, it's brightening some of the highlights that I already have. And then it's adding a little bit more white to make it feel a little bit more atmospheric in there. Okay. And actually, I'm tempted in this particular view, I'm tempted just to come in here and make this like, so it makes it look like it's day. There, see what that does? I mean, that really just like, bam, it's like, okay, it's day, and now light is just sort of blending in here, right? We wouldn't really see clouds in that little sliver right there, and light's just sort of coming through here. Sometimes I don't like to do too many rays, but sometimes you can sort of get a little bit of light, that haziness that's coming in here, okay? Let's go over some of this, pull some of that, little highlights in here, here. Let's see if I can get some little water highlights in there too. Okay. All right. Now, is that what? Now, after those highlights are hitting here, those are pretty bright, right? So I want to come in and have some more reflective light streaming across part of this. And then this is where I just drop my opacity down. I might take part of my brush here and just sort of, here I just noticed something. Let me come back to that. Let me come back to part of my darks here. Let me merge these two layers together here. Okay. I noticed that this, I never got that underhang right there. So that's going to have that underhang, excuse me, it's going to have a dark value underneath it. Okay, and then even if I come over here, put a little bit of a line, if light's coming in through there, it might even cast a little bit of a shadow like this sort of. Okay, let me just strengthen that up a little bit more. Okay. It's like wood on the outside there, so that may be like a darker wood or trim. Okay, now that I have that done, what I was going to do a minute ago is I'm going to come back in, take that light, come in with my brush, and just sort of lightly get some light coming in here, right? Come along part of this edge right here. Just get a little bit of highlight coming up in here. Look, a little bit of light might be going across the top of that wood right there, a little bit on that, especially that edge. Sort of coming in like this. That might even be a little too bright, but that's all right for right now. Let me come back in here and get a little bit more light. Hitting some of this. A little bit of light in here. especially right on that little edge there, and that light's going to sort of blend itself down and then deteriorate, right? This little edge in here. So light's still just, you know, fading off there a little bit. A little bit of light on that guy right there. You know, it's in shadow, might have just a little bit of bounce coming onto it, and then especially right here on these other rocks. Let me push this up to about 30% grade. Light's going to hit down here, start to bounce up a little bit, right? Still come back in here and I could just noodle little highlights where I want the eye to go. A little highlight there, maybe a little highlight sort of coming up in there. Little highlight. It's just noodling, guys. Little bits. I don't do it all at one time. A little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, this is, and again, this is just not, this is a tonal study. It's not meant to be anything bigger than that. It's just figuring out where the light's going, what's going to be hit. Okay. And give me a sec. I'm going to merge these two layers together. These are my highs. So now I can take a look at some of the difference that I have in there, right? And I want to come in here still and keep putting a little bit more. Give me a second. Let me label this darks. There we go. Brush. Come back here. I just want to get a little bit more. So you got these little overhangs. This is where shadows come to be important. That's an overhang right there. A little overhang right in there too. Okay. Sorry, I do realize I'm not painting on the same layer. A little darker, that might fade up in there. I don't know what. Looks like there's stairs. I would define what's back here. There might be, you know, a surface like this, like a house value set. And then that might have a little bit. So as I come in here, start to get some of these highlights on here. Sort of blending through very lightly. This roof might have a little bit of light on that too, like that. Okay, that might be another structure back there. Just very lightly. So you need to define what's back there, Alexander. Okay. Let's go back. I want to still continue to try to get that light. There's going to be a facade change here, right? If light's going to hit here, and here, that means that's going to be a little bit darker because this angle is catching the light first. Okay, so now, look, you need to punch that. We need to punch that shadow, that overhang, right? In there, and then even this is going to be a little bit lighter because light's going to come down, it's going to hit that and that first. Okay. Okay, very light like that. technically, even if that light's coming in here too, might get some of that in there as well. Some highlights on that water. Great way to do highlights on water too, guys, is remember, it's like you're talking lots of gradients, right? Oops. Oops. Ah, gosh darn it. My hand keeps slipping on the... There we go. So look, I just did it like that. I'm going to hit H. And you could do this too with like a Prismacolor pencil. So it doesn't have to be all digital. I'm just going to sort of come in here, dark to light, right? Like little highlights there, and then it breathes across. See that? Little highlights on that water that sort of come across there. Okay. There we go. Deselect. Now, one thing I was going to try to do, but I have to merge all layers, I was going to try to put like a little bit of reflection in there. But, hold on. If that shadow's this way, that's wrong. Let me fix that. This is going to be at a much different shadow distance. I did that wrong. My bad. It's going to be like this. Let me cover that up. Let's be almost sort of parallel to that. Maybe not much light in there. Okay. All right. So that's I could still go into this a little bit more, but I'm about 20 something minutes into it right now. Let's just take a look. Let's go back through some of the levels real quick. Turn them off. That's where we started. Same value, same value. First pass. Go in there, put some more darks. Start to blend them in a little bit, and then we come back and we put some highlights on. And look at that. I mean, we have a really definitive feel of where the light's coming from. I could still get in here and noodle more highlights. It's just a time thing, and I'm trying to keep this down to, you know, this is 30 minutes into this, right? So you could spend 30, 40 minutes on a tonal study sometimes, just a light pass, just to figure out what's going to be hit with light and how that light bounces. Some light might even hit that little edge right there. Put a little bit of light on that. Come in here, a little bit more light back there, some back in here, a little bit in here, some of those rocks, okay? See, I keep noodling. I need to stop. Stop it, Phil. So that light's going to be soft there. It's going to fade off here. This area down here, that's going to be shadow right there. Oh, yeah. All right, now, if you really want, I can see if I can punch this up a little bit more and make it look like there's a little bit of light in that tunnel. But I don't want it to compete with that light. It has to be secondary. So let's say I have a little bit of light like that, and then I come in and I do this type of glow maybe coming out of that tunnel, let's say. Let's try it here. Let's see what happens if we get it in there. All right. Okay, could work, but I don't want it to compete with what's back there. That's the only catch. You got to think that's a compositional thing where I don't want it to compete too much. So in that case, I might just take it out, just leave this one that's in here. Could still come in. Look at what happens. That's what I love about a fuzzy brush like that. You know, this area is all the way back here getting hit by that light. See, just lightly going across it like that. It really starts to create that haze and just of that light coming through and hitting part of this city in here, and even in here too, you know. And then especially like down on the water too. Water's dark and then it's reflective, right? Especially in little canyons like this. So now I could come in here, punch up a little bit more light on that, make it feel a little bit more like water. Okay. All right. need to stop here. 1 second, I'll be done. I'm going to punch up this area a little bit more. Okay? Look at the mood in there. Total difference, night and day difference. In fact, let me just go ahead and look. I take these off. That's where we were. Okay, build it up. Get the light in there. Get it figured out. I still want to come in here and keep rendering, but I'm going to stop. It's 30 minutes. I want to do another demo on Tim's. So I'll be right back, guys. Save your files. All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are with Tim's now. And let's just go through and let's just take a look at Tim's. Tim's are got fun composition here. A lot of things that can work, especially with these buildings larger in the foreground here. There's a lot of cool things that we can develop. As soon as I saw that, I wanted to go right into it because there's things I wanted to establish. One of the things is that if we didn't see a light arrow, we get in here and it gets a little hard to see exactly what's going on with light. There's light coming on the top like this, but then there's like not light. It's just hard to see. These are hit, so it looks like light's this way, light's this way. We don't see shadows behind these. This really needs to be defined up quite a bit, and it could really work a lot more. There's a lot more that can be added in here. Here we see where the light arrow is coming from. If it came in that direction, still we have darks against light in a couple little areas. Actually, it looks like he did label, but there's still white in there. Like when I look at that, that should be tone right there. That should be white and should be adjusting accordingly. Okay, so let's start with, I sort of wanted to jump into this one real quick because I just want to show you how fast we can start to make this work. Okay, one of the things I saw in here is I really like this foreground, Tim. However, same size, same size, same size, same size, right? That doesn't quite work for me, but what I could do is maybe something like this. So let me see if I can come in here. Let me see if I can grab this element right here. Okay, I'm going to copy this and paste it. I'm going to bring it over here. Let's transform this bad boy. Let's flip it horizontally. Okay, and let's see if I got it sort of in here. Maybe it's turned a little bit, let's say. Points us somewhat into that direction. And you know what? That's actually sort of cool because look, I wanted to flip it this way. So it takes this off. It matches that. But look, by flipping it this way, where does it point us to? Right there. In fact, if I go to distort now, and if I go and see if I could point that in there a little bit, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. So what I'm doing here, Tim, this is more of a design. I'm trying to add a couple more elements in here that modify a foreground. You need more overlap here, my friend. So look, if I come over here, again, I'm going to go to distort now. Let's see if I can get this to be, let's go to perspective too. See if I can really change that a little bit. I want to try to get that in here like a foreground element. Something about like right here. It's a little bit wider. That's perfect. Okay, we're not going to see the rest. So let me delete this. Let's delete that. And deselect. And let me try a couple more. I like this right here. I just want it larger. So I think what I'm going to do is just come in here, select this area that Tim has. Okay. And there we go. Copy, paste that. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Copy, paste. And now I'm just going to transform it. I want it to overlap. See, look at that. There's a tangency right there. See it? It's right on that edge. Not if I overlap it. If I bring that up a little bit more, bring it like this now, bring it into the front here, that's a huge difference, right? Look at that. So now if I come back, let's go to erase, 100%. There we go. So look at that. Overlapping another shape. Man, look at the, see what happens here? I really start to create a lot more variations there. Distort, all right. Perspective, let's try to not really get that. I wanted to get this over a little bit more like that. Bring this one out a little bit. Then, it's doing it the wrong way. I need to go to distort again. I wanted to bring that out a little bit more like that. Yeah, I wanted to get that line pointing right in there. That line sways. That one's working pretty good. Okay, and then let's come in here. Let's erase. Let's get rid of that little edge. Let's get rid of that. Okay, and okay, 1 second here. Get that fit in there. And I want to see if I can fit one more little little guy in there. So let me see if I can grab what Tim already has here. Okay. And luckily I saved my layers, so look, now I can bring it up and see I can pitch it between one layer. Let me find that other layer on the right there. That's not it, it's going to be this one here. So I want to get that one to go above that as well. Ha! Now I can see, oops. Actually, that was a happy accident, I didn't mean to do that, but I don't mind that being there. And then let's go to layer 5. So how I did that, in case you guys forget, if you just hit Control, touch whatever you want to hit, right click, it'll take you to the layer. So look, if I touch this guy that I added in, right click, layer 1, and it goes in your layers automatically. It's pretty convenient. It's a great way to work. Okay. Let's go to distort first. I want to see if I can pull this out a little bit more. See if I can get this to come in a little bit somewhere about right there where it's like slightly overlapping. Don't have any major tangencies. Okay. There we go. Erase all this. Okay. Oops. That's weird. Hold on. My Cintiq would out there. Do you see that? I went to erase and it drew a line across. Every now and then. This is an older Cintiq that I'm using. It's much older. It's a 21. I think it's almost 10 years old now. And I want to distort that, transform, and let's distort a little bit. I want to bring that end out a little bit more like that in perspective. And let me see if I can get this end to pop out a little bit more like that. Let's say, so it looks a little bit different. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to stamp, and I'm just going to take that area there. I'm just going to sort of paint over that so that area is gone there. Okay, that's pretty cool. And I don't see any major tangencies. Let me just turn that on and off to make sure. Yeah. Only thing I want to do is on this guy, I want to erase a little bit of the tip there. There we go. Okay. There. And now that that's done, I'm going to compress all those down to each other. And I'm going to come back here with the marquee. Let's just delete that little segment there. Perfect. Perfect. There we go. And let's just take a look at the difference. Look at that. Look at that. See that? Bam! Overlap. Just use your buildings. I didn't even have to do anything else. Okay? Tim's like, stop flashing. I want to take a screen grab, please. That's all right. There you go. Take a screen grab right there. Okay? All right. Now that that's done, one of the first things that I imagined when I first saw this piece is I just wanted to come up here. I wanted there to be a nice foreground grouping of scale. So if I come over here, I'm just going to take this lasso. I'm going to sort of go along these areas here. My arm's a little jittery. That's okay. There we go. And let's go to there. So there's my lasso. And then I want to subtract a couple little areas. I want to like come in here. Just take that little area out there. Make sure I get this little spot around here out. Okay, that looks like it's out. Let's get that negative shape out of there out. Oops. There. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do right now, so I'm just going to come in here and grab this dark value that Tim already had. And it's magic time, all right? Hold on a minute. What my layers set at? Why is it not working? Maybe it's the brush. There it goes. So my brush setting was low. Okay, that's immediately going to separate that foreground from the rest of it there, right? I did miss one little area here. I'm just going to hit with the brush now. I missed that little guy. I missed the bottom here. I missed this in here. Okay. All right, so now that I got that foreground, really identifies a lot more as to what's happening. Don't worry about the highlights. That's later. That's the light, right? Let's come in here. Let's get some midground in there now. So I'm going to label my layer right now, foreground. All right, I'm going to come over here to my layers. I'm going to put another layer up on top. Call this midground. I'm going to come in here with my lasso. And now I'm going to try to go over some of this area and go down and around too. Try to get something that looks cool or interesting. All right, let's try that. And let me try the same thing now. However, though, when I do this, I'm going to grab this other worm that Tim had in here. Hold on. I know you're like, no, it doesn't look right, Phil. What's happened? Drop it underneath. There we go. Voila. Okay. Deselect. All right. Let's go back to eraser. Get that to fit in there. Any overspray here. Hold on. What layer is that on? Why is it not? There it goes. I wouldn't erase for a minute. There we go. And then this will be a little bit lighter background back there. So we got foreground, ground, midground. Come here. Let's put BG. For the BG, what I'm going to do is just going to color all this in with the clouds too. All this yuckiness up here where it's like broken, this simulated shading. It's okay. It's not quite going where we want it to go. So I think it might be easier from this point just to come over here and select this whole little area and just pick a much lighter value. The only thing I don't like is we're getting a little bit into some offset color and we want to work into tone. So I might come back into this in just a minute. And let's hit fill. I forgot I don't have my hotkeys on here. Edit, fill, and foreground color. Okay. And that's going to block it out, so I'm going to have to put this onto multiply. I mean, it's a little bit darker. That's not bad. And then I can adjust it a little bit in here, like so. Okay. All right. So let me see. There's a little bit missing. What's missing there? Stamp. Gosh darn, hold on. Transform. Pull that down there a little bit like that. Okay, there we go. I was trying to put something in the background there just a little bit. Problem is I see a little bit of that line. It bugs me just a teeny bit, but that's okay for right now. So at least I have foreground. Just right there, I'm separating the foregrounds, which is huge. And now I want to come in here and let's just address. I like this idea of light coming down sort of at an angle. Hitting, I think that's, let me turn these layer off. Let's look at what Tim had. That's pretty similar to what Tim was going for because look, I have light hitting the tops here. Okay. And so let's do that now. Let's come back here and let me put a couple layers on here. I'm going to put highs and darks. Highs. Darks. And then I also, just for sake, I want to put a layer up on top. This works with markers where you're limited, but I don't like getting, hold on, so make sure I got pure black here. There we go. Pure black, okay. Edit, fill. Okay, now I'm going to go to pure black. I'm going to put that layer onto hue and saturation there so I can get a better idea of what I'm doing, what it looks like in terms of tone. Okay. There we go. So I can check it every now and then. All right, so it's back here. So one of the things I want to do is let's come back here into my darks now, and I want to get in here and adjust some of these other sets that are here, all this in here. One thing is I noticed this is darker back here. So let's take a look at that. That's our foreground, right? Here's our midground. So, and then for some reason, looking at Tim's original right here, see it's darker, gets a little punched up there, and we need to watch that. So what I'm going to do is see if I can't get in here and lighten that up in just a minute. So see, I'm just going to have to paint on top. I'm working backwards here because I don't have the line drawing to go underneath, but that's okay. Let me see if I can come in here and tie this, get that area to strap down a little bit. Okay, now light. Let's say light's coming down here like this, right? Well, I know I'm going to have my darks in here, okay? So let's just sort of jump in here and see if I can't push up some of these darks just a little bit here, okay? And let me go back. I want to use my textured brush here. Where is it there? No, that's not it. There it is. Number 2 here. Okay. All right. Come in here. Trying to punch some of this. Shadows. That's weird. What happened? I'm sorry, guys. Give me a minute. Something's annoying the heck out of me. I have that line like right there, and that was never... What is that from? Oh, that's from the midground. That's all right. Let me just erase some of that out of there. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and merge all these together. Take that background too. So let me show you what I'm going to do. See here, I have foreground, midground, background. I'm going to merge those into one layer right now. But dang it, here's the problem. See, I'm working under a line drawing. Hold on, let me adjust this. And I put this, one of these is not on. That's why I put the background on a multiply. I can't do that. I have to put it on normal, drop the opacity, get it to blend in a little bit more like that. Because when I go to merge them, they don't work together. Okay, let's just do it like that for right now. Okay, so now I'm just putting some darks. So again, I'm on my darks, right? So here I'm on my darks. Unfortunately, I have to paint over Tim's drawing, which is okay. Might lose a little bit of line here or there. That's all right. So I'm going to get some different shadows and whatnot that are in there. What I don't like is it has that sort of hazy feel. So let's see. I'm just going to fix that. Sorry, guys. Let me pause for a minute and fix this. All right, sorry, I just fixed it. What I had to do is drag the line drawing up, put it on multiply, and then drop. I'm going to put the darks back up on top, though, a little bit here to paint on top of the line. So what I did is I had to drop all that, put it underneath the line drawing to get it to work a little bit better. Okay, so now that that's done, let's come back in here, and I want to keep working on this. Okay, so I'm trying to pick a base value back here for the sky here. Get rid of some of all this weirdness that's back here. Okay, now let's get back in here and just keep working. So I lost a little bit going on the line drawing there. Do you see that? A little bit of detail in there, but that's okay. I'm going to just do that with value right now. I'm going to paint over on top of this and get this stuff to read a little bit easier. Okay, just bear with me for a couple minutes. Get some of this detail that's in here. All right, now that I have that sort of working, I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to go for a little bit lighter value. And then I'm going to press my brush at about 40% and start getting some other darks back down in here, especially on the sides of some of these buildings. Okay, so I'm at a much lighter value, right? Have to be. This is further back, and it's going to be much lighter back in here. That, my friend, is too dark right in there. Let me go back to the. Let me erase that. To paint over it. I'm in the line drawing to do that, to get that to knock back a little bit. It's way too dark for back there. Okay. That's okay, that's not bad whatsoever. It's got a noodle. It's got all these little buildings in here that are great. They're going to really do a lot to make part of this world come alive. All right. Punching my darks up a little bit more in the foreground here, that's all. Okay, let's come back here. Much lighter now back here, right? Tim, I don't know what that is there, but I would take it out. It's drawn incorrectly, and it doesn't really even do anything for the composition. It's like some weird wall or something. Oops, I don't even think you need that in there. I just think it's holding you back a little bit. So I'm going to come into your line right now and see if I can't just paint that out real quick. I don't know what it is, but it's not doing anything. Is it helping you or making things worse? There we go. Oops, it keeps getting... Dang it. It keeps getting darker. I want it to get lighter. Ah! There we go. There, that's out. All right, much better. Let's come back in here. That was on the line. Let's go back. I want to finesse some of these little darks a little bit. Some of the ones closer to me, I'm going to punch up a little bit more, especially where they hit the ground. Okay. Barely even touching them back here, just on the dark sides. Okay, there, it's a little bit better. Now I haven't addressed any highlights or anything right now, so one of the things I'm going to do in here first, I got to do is I got to get rid of the cloud lines. Those lines are flattening part of the image. They're really placing a limitation on what's happening for the clouds here. So I'm going to see if I can't get in there right now and just sort of paint over some of this, get this out. Like the darkness. The value's perfect, Tim. That's okay. Let's get rid of the line. Now, I say that you can do that with just, you got to lightly sketch those lines in there, and then if you come back with a highlight, when we come back with a white, it'll get rid of all those lines that are in there, okay? Just got to be careful with your pen and your cleanup. You just made those lines are pretty intense there. They're actually thicker on the clouds than they are on some of the buildings, and that is going to flatten the heck out of your image here. Sorry, it's taking so long. There we go. Let's get this flattened out. Get that out. That. There we go. Much better. Now we can come in here and put little darks if you want under some of those clouds. One thing I noticed you're doing, you only have one cloud that we can see the top of, and then the rest of these are all out of the frame. I might pull another cloud out a little bit more so we can see a little underneath it. So that way when we get highlights in there, we can get highlights that mimic the cloud shapes on there, okay? All right, let's go mess with some highs now. Now that we got our darks, look, dark to light transition in there. Okay, when I turn that on, dark to light transition. So let's just check it. Okay, much darker there. It's getting, excuse me, hit the line there. Much darker in here. Okay, when we come over here, it's getting lighter. Start getting back here, it's getting lighter. We get back here to the building, and right there, and it's getting lighter. Okay, much lighter. Okay, look at that. We went from there to there. It's huge. That's what we need right now. Okay, now let's get in there and start messing with some whites. Get some highlight on there on the clouds. Okay, so I just use the base brush here. So once I come in here, let's start with this structure right here right now. And let me see if I can just get a little bit of highlight on here. Then I'm going to come across and start to hit a couple of these little tops. Okay. Just doing this real quick. You could get in there and maybe nudge it a little bit more if you have to. Put that at like 20%. Just try to darken up the base of that ship just a little bit more. Okay. And water is always a little bit darker, closer to shore. Then as it fades out, it lightens up a little bit, especially if the sun's hitting it. Okay. Sorry, Tim. It's hard to work on this one with. There's what I like. The line already had tone and whatever, and it creates a little bit of muddiness. But that's all right. Let's just go for the key shapes here. Okay. Sure, I'm all right there. Some highlights on those clouds. Might be a good idea, Tim, is to get a cloud that goes behind this all the way. I think you had it there. Okay. Makes that area pop a little bit more, having the cloud under there. Okay. Now I'm going to see if I get some light reflecting back in here a little bit. Oh, not there. Okay. I ditched some of those windows. There's a lot on there. I don't know. Let's see what they look like. Let me see if I can hit them with white. They pop up a little bit more. See, it's going to compete with the highlights of the building. Yeah, I'm just sort of iffy on that. Maybe we just need to make the windows darker. Contrast, right? I'm going to come in and get some whites around part of that building. Okay. I don't want to over render, right? But I think this is I'm on a better pathway right now with this. And let's just check. Let's see where we were. Okay, it's the benefit of all the layers, right? Look at it in black and white there. It's working a little bit more. That's what's hard about working in colored markers and then looking at it in value. But the values are working better there. But if I turn all this off, you know, and oops, and go back to where we were, I mean, that was a huge difference of just being there and then being able to come in here and jump up to there. See, that's working a lot more. You have a separation of foreground. You have some highlights sitting here. You have a building that's got lights on it. Trying to get the cloud to pop behind that building so it gets that area to pop a little bit more. And something that I could do, another little cheat, is I could probably even come in here and throw a little bit more dark, just little increments, little darken lights on that shadow, scaling up the wall sort of like this. So it gets that area to pop just a little bit more. Just a teeny bit. Not too dark though, just like that. So it's against that cloud, so it gets that to pop in just a little bit more. Hit some more shadows back in here against those whites. Okay. Problem is when I do these, I just keep noodling with them because there's so much to do. You know, look at that. That's just, you know, I have the building in there. The other thing too would be, you know, you could get some highlights on that water as well. Depending on how the sun is hitting. So, you know, to get those highlights in there, let's just see what would happen if we took the brush and we were at a close to a pure white. That's way, let's try that. If I go a little bit lighter, if I could just sort of come in here and just sort of, sorry, brush is too big. Get some highlights going across part of that water. Okay. All right, just a little bit more. Again, for a comp, again, here I am at that 20-minute mark and a stop. Actually, about 25 minutes into this one. I'm just going to leave it alone. I have something there to work with. So now, when I go to work from that full size, I'm in much better position. Even when I shrink it down, my eye's going between here and here. I have more highlights. This is just supporting and it blends in, right? That's what we want. We want to avoid getting before what was happening, you know, if I turn these elements off here, it's just, look at that, it's too washed out. You got highlights here, you just everywhere. And when you scale it down, where does the eye go? It's not, it's going here, it's going there, it's going all over the place, right? So, you know, hopefully that helps out a little bit. Just gets you to push your environment a little bit more. But definitely I think one thing that's going to help is the larger foreground shapes overlapping each other like that. That really does a lot to set up scale in the transition there. And then just getting in here, I think this is an easier comp to work off of from this point forward. And this would be a valued little tonal study to have in your book. Okay? All right, guys, have fun. See you back in class on Monday. Bye.